remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Southborough website at southboroughtown.com. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen to the meeting may do so in the following manner: southboroughtown.com/remote meetings. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will put on Southborough's website an audio or video recording transcript or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
I call this meeting to order on Tuesday, October 13th, 2020
At 7:05.
at 7:05. Thank you.
Mhm.
Somebody want to say second?
Oh, I second that.
We still know Sarah? Here she comes, I think.
I'm here.
Yay.
Hey, let me figure out how to start my video. Hi.
There.
Hi. I packed up all of my things just so to get ready to go home. And I left my computer on my desk. So
That's okay.
I'm using my home computer. Thank you to Tim for letting me in.
Desk and not the top of the roof of your
So-
car.
That's true.
Yes. Thank goodness that's not what happened. So what did I miss? I don't know what's happened since I.
Nothing.
We read the boilerplate, so we're ready to go.
And the meeting's called to
Oh, okay.
order.
Okay, beautiful. All right, well, I've got various screens pulled up here to help keep track of what's going on. It looks like the first thing is to review the minutes for the September meeting.
Okay.
And I imagine, so Sarah, I think you sent out the minutes for the
Special meeting on the 20.
the abbreviated meeting we had to appoint Christina to the admin assistant position. Oh, hold on one second. Is a board member.
Where'd you go?
Okay, sorry. Susan is in the audience, so I was telling Tim to let her in. Yes, so I think we need to approve the minutes for both of those, although the agenda says only for the September 24th meeting, so I don't know if we're technically allowed to approve the other minutes.
Well, the September 8th
doesn't-
meeting was our
oh.
big meeting. And then the September 24th was the confirmation of our new employee.
I think we can do both sets, right?
Hi, Susan. I don't know the answer to that question. Marguerite, do you know the answer to that question? Are you there? Marguerite?
Oh, yes, what was the question? Sorry, I was printing out the agenda.
If the agenda says approval of the minutes for the September 24th meeting, which was the shorter meeting that we had to Christina, and it does not say approval of the minutes for the September 8th meeting, which was our longer usual monthly meeting.
Yes,
Should we be holding off on approving the minutes for the September 8th till the next meeting?
I think we should approve both of them, and if there's a problem, we can consider it as any other business, which will probably come before the board, which is the 9th one. So we're sort of covered. And if it's a problem, we can do it for the next meeting. But I move we approve the minutes for the September 24th meeting. And what was the date of the other one?
September 8th.
September 8th meetings, both.
Second?
Second.
Third. All in favor?
Aye. Landry, aye.
Subraja, aye.
Aye.
Warren, I.
John Backer, aye. Is that everyone?
That's everyone.
I think Susan's in the Caribbean.
Oh, it's just a backdrop.
You've stolen away to
Oh, no, I wish. Don't I wish?
Anywhere else but here, right? So,
Okay. I was just thinking to myself in watching other meetings, perhaps it would be helpful in the future to, and I'm not sure who could do this, maybe Sarah, since you're taking notes, but if we have a list of all of the board members and you call out one person's name at a time and they just say aye or nay, that probably will help.
Okay, I can do that.
Everybody's in different places on people's video.
All right.
So director's report, I got that to people late on Friday or late Saturday. I don't even remember at this point. I hope it was enough time for
it was
you all
plenty of
to
time.
review.
Plenty of time.
Great.
So I don't know if anyone had any questions on it.
I don't think.
Sarah, could you clarify the difference between just counseling and clinical consultations?
Sure. So clinical consultations are if somebody is not quite at the point of needing counseling or just needs a one-time discussion or has a couple of questions and just wants to talk with a mental health professional about their situation, then they can schedule a consultation with us.
Okay.
And counseling is a much, much more involved relationship.
Okay.
Does that answer that question?
Yes, thank you.
And you guys are still not seeing anybody in person, right? Okay.
Documentation attorney for his review and approval so that we would have that option. So essentially, any resident that has interest in seeing us in person would have to sign a waiver with in-person services. They would also have to agree to adhere to our guidelines, and quite involved, but I've sent that over to him and I'm waiting to hear back his edits, suggestions, thoughts, approval. And even if we have that back, I think our plan, I juggle this a lot and actually would want to have the board's involvement in making a decision as to whether we should offer in-person services or not. But I also weigh that with the specific needs of specific employees. So we just want to have that option. Of course, as time goes on, you're seeing an uptick in cases. So by the time we have that, we may
Everything will be
table
shut
it
down
anyway.
again, right?
So possibly, yeah. So did anybody have any other questions about the director's report?
Tell me how the referral support is going. How's that done? It sounds like you might be getting a little overwhelmed. I know that a lot of people have reached out to me about the services provided, especially once their kids went to school. It seems like there's a lot of anxiety and stress. So I'm hoping that you guys aren't getting overwhelmed, because I know that's a labor intensive type of outreach to the community.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're highlighting that tonight, Sarah, because it relates to two other things on the agenda. Megan, do you have anything you want to say about referral support?
Sure. It is a process. We're very lucky. Lisa, our graduate intern, has really came on board at a great time because she has been doing a lot of it since she doesn't have a lot of cases right now. She's had more time to be able to do a bit more of that, but it is a process because we are trying to make it, I would say, as tailored as we can in terms of making sure that the people we're referring residents to actually meet the needs in terms of they take the people's insurance, they have openings, they see the population, you know, if it's a young child, we're trying to make sure that the people we're referring them to work with young children, things like that. So it is a labor intensive process because we call, there's like the initial call and then we have to wait to get the call back. And we want to try to actually not just leave messages and play phone tag and actually have a conversation with these providers. So yes, it does take some time for sure. And it
Have
has
you been
been
finding
a lot.
Have you been
The other
finding?
thing I was just going to say to add to that, that our list of providers, sorry, can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
You have a little lag, so.
Yeah.
Box is frozen.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So is that we have to cross-reference several different sources
forgot about
because
that.
what the insurance website says, is not exactly the same thing as what is actually available. So we have to cross-reference several different websites to get a list of providers to start calling in the first place. So that can also take some, it's like it's a reconnaissance mission of sorts.
Yeah.
Have you been finding that a lot of the
Sorry, Sarah, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's okay. I was just wondering if you're finding a lot of the practitioners are not accepting new patients.
Providers are limited. Yeah. I'm trying to think. I feel like we've been able to find almost everybody, someone, at least one name, almost everyone.
That's good.
But yeah, there's not, most people have really limited availability, or they're saying, I'll have openings in, well, this was back, I was gonna say October, it is October now.
Yeah.
But back a couple months ago, you know, they were saying I'll have openings in a couple months. Yeah, so people are pretty swamped, yes. Everyone needs support.
Yeah.
Including you guys. I mean, how is it with Christina now? Is that I
feel like-
surrender or?
No, she.
No. I think my internet I keep getting messages that my internet connection is unstable, and it feels like everybody's responding to me about 30 seconds after I say something.
Sarah, my
Yeah.
recommendation, go to another room in your house if you can.
So I don't know whether to keep talking or not.
Is your box?
I don't know that
There's
you
a
want
little
me to
bit
do
of a
that.
lag. There's a little bit of a lag and the video is stopped basically.
Yeah.
It freezes.
We
Okay.
like you just
Let
the
me
way
try
you
to
are.
come on my phone.
Yeah, phone might work. We can hear you anyway.
I'm gonna leave the meeting and I'll come back on my phone and see if that works, okay?
That sounds great.
Technology at its best,
I
right?
know.
Well, It's always surprising that it works at all.
I think
I
if you
know.
go someplace in other place in your house, the wife, she needs to go closest to her router.
Yeah, yeah.
Geo could fix it.
I know.
He should have like a little emergency
Side business
vehicle.
there.
Yeah.
So,
So
what
Megan,
was your question?
oh, how is Christina?
I haven't had too much contact with Christina.
But
I had a meeting with her.
technically, guys, technically, we can't discuss personnel matters in a meeting.
Oh, can we say, is it helpful?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
But you have to be careful with, I
Right.
may be completely wrong, but I think personnel and performance are not supposed to be.
Yeah, I didn't even mean it that way. I just
No, I
meant
know
like,
exactly what you mean. I had the
yeah.
same question myself, but I'm
Right.
thinking like,
How do I phrase that, right? It's,
yeah, it's because it's a reasonable question. I don't know.
we see you, Sarah.
I'm here.
Oh,
Good.
good. Oh, you look
Yay.
beautiful.
Oh, thanks.
Now she's going to get to
It's the
hold her
cell
phone the
phone.
whole time.
You lean it against your computer. Open up your computer and put your phone there. That's what I do.
Yeah. The problem is my battery is dying, and I suppose if I go away,
Oh, no.
Get the
Oh,
big
my-
extension cord.
I'm gonna go back this way.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
good. So Sarah, the question was, how is Christine working out? But then I had the thought that maybe it's a personnel matter and it's not supposed to be discussed in an open public meeting. So I don't know. I mean, everybody wants to know the answer, but I don't know if we're supposed to be discussing it.
Right. Thank you, Marguerite.
know.
I just wanted to know if it was nice having never mind. I didn't want to know anything. You know?
I could be
No.
wrong. I could be wrong.
No, you could be right. You do this more than we do. So,
Well, not a lot, but anyway.
How about this question? Has Christina started?
Yeah.
Yes,
was
Christina has started.
And
She's
what is she
starting.
doing?
So this is the unfortunate thing. I did all of this work for today's meeting to outline exactly what she's been working on, to share all of this with you guys. And of course, I don't have it because I don't have my computer. But I'll tell you, having her on board has been wonderful. It's been extremely helpful. At least, you know, I think it's been helpful. I can't speak for everybody, but you know, looking at the department systematically, I think it's such a relief to have someone helping us to streamline things, and having someone designated for so many tasks that did not have a home.
perfect.
You know, we all had our hand in various things, and it was really, you know, didn't really make sense under any one of our job descriptions to be handling some of those pieces. So it's been really helpful. And she in particular has been very enthusiastic, very resourceful. You know, I think she's a very skilled individual that we can give her a little bit of information and she can take that information and run with it. And, you know, she keeps looking at the bigger picture and trying to help us sort of assess the way that we do things and strategizing ways to improve already. And it's week number 3 for her this week. So.
Oh, good. And I didn't know what the start date was too. So,
yeah,
anyway,
she started officially on October 1st.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, yeah. And Megan and Shannon, I don't know if you have anything you'd like to add to that. I can only see one person at a time.
I think you summed it up.
Very good, Megan.
Okay. Good. Okay. So that came out of the director's report. Were there any other questions about that or any of the services we're currently working on?
Are you still doing, can all three of you be in the office at the same time or no? Are you doing shifts?
It's funny you ask. I just sent an updated sort of schedule for in-person office time because with the addition of Christina and Lisa and with my schedule changes, it was kind of, there were some changes that warranted an adjustment in that schedule. So we are still at 50% capacity in the office.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Or we need to be. There was a day or two that we would have more, but we also were given permission from the Board of Health to be okay doing that because we each have our own individual office space. So long as we're not all congregating in one room together, we've been okay. But at any, we have adjusted the schedule so that it's only going to be 2 people in the office on any given day.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I have a couple, just a question about the virtual trainings. Obviously, this is the world we live in. Did you find any of them helpful or things that would be useful to other people in the community?
I think you're talking specifically about some of the trainings that Shannon and Megan have done.
Yeah, the online play therapy. I feel like we're all kind of behind the 8 ball and how do we address needs, emotional health needs through this new virtual portal. So just curious to find out if you liked any of them, because I've been looking for some myself. So.
I would say for me, it's like hit or miss. Some of them, in the beginning, I was doing some really good ones. The more recent ones have been more repetitive, I guess. Like I'm like, okay, I want new ideas. I did some ones in the beginning for like running online groups that were really helpful, that will hopefully give me some ideas for groups that we will hopefully be running that I'll be able to apply soon. So some of them, I would say what's been, there were a couple that I did that I got like good app ideas from, like more screen time, yay. But you know, there were some good, more like good resources that I could then, that I've like bookmarked and things like that, that I am like, okay, if anyone ever asks me for this very specific resource, I have an article I can send to them, or I have a website I can direct them to. So yes and no, some of them have been helpful and some of them have not. I will be honest.
Did you have any that provided any parameters for running groups virtually?
Yeah, I did one in the middle of the summer, I believe it was. I'd have to go back to when I was like my list of things that I've done. It was actually probably on one of the director's reports maybe, but I'd have to figure out where it was that I took it to see if it's recorded. That they just made me think about a ton of stuff that I hadn't like thought of. And so things in terms of like guidelines for running groups, but then also some like random helpful suggestions and tips that I found really useful, that I wrote a bunch of notes and was like, okay, this will be good stuff to think about when I'm running groups.
All right. Yeah, because I think given the needs of the community and the virtual world we're living in, I have my finger on the pulse of like younger people in the community, primarily, you know, middle school and high schoolers. They're having a hard time, and I was wondering if a virtual group opportunity, just so they can start talking about it, because they're anxious about the schedules or not keeping up or being at the school in person. There's just a lot of stuff going on, and I really thought it would be useful to maybe start thinking about offering some groups based on specific needs or age groups or whatever, because I think that's the only way we're going to be able to connect with them, besides personally. So
Yeah.
And for the high schoolers, it's only been 2 weeks, right? We're on our second week.
Yeah,
think.
this is the start of the second week.
Okay.
Yep.
Have you heard anything from those kids? Or I know Leslie has
Yeah.
one.
I've heard good things-ish, you know, that they're like happy to physically be seeing each other, that it's very different, but obviously it's going to be different.
Right.
You
My
know,
neighbor,
one-way hallways.
Right.
That's
And
like the
lunch
big thing up
outside
there.
if it's a nice day. They've been eating lunch outdoors, I heard.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Leslie is a senior, right? So
she's on mute. Leslie, you're muted.
oh,
There we go. I was saying the in-person I think is good. The remote days I thought were going to be pretty much a full day of school. A full
and
day
it's
of
not that
school
way.
at home, and it's not at all. My son has like one Zoom a day on the days, on the three, well, 2 of the 3 days that he's home. I think the Monday is when everybody is home. So I think he's in Zooms most of that day, but the other 2 days, he says he only has one Zoom on each of those days. So, I mean,
Wow.
it's not as much of a concern having a senior, but I don't know how much the underclassmen are getting out of their days at home in terms of teaching. I think it's different for every, depending on your teachers and what courses you're taking.
Right. But they're supposed to be, I think they're supposed to be working from like 8 to 2, I thought.
Yeah. Yep.
Nope.
Nope.
Can I just chime in response to Sarah's comment about groups that Megan and Lisa have been working on putting together, and in fact, we're starting to advertise for this as a start date in November. And actually, Megan, do you recall the name of it now? Shannon is our resident naming.
Yeah, I think we're going with, something to the effect of an A+ guide to teens and tweens organization or something like that. Shannon came up with it. We're using one of Shannon's. Shannon came up with different names. We're using one of Shannon's names for it.
I don't remember what I said.
You came up with 2 great names. We loved them both.
But essentially, it's executive functioning skills, which are helpful for young people in getting themselves organized, helping them to stay motivated, helping reinforce good study habits, helping mentally organize oneself. So I just wanted to share that that's something that is in the works. We have, they're working on a group for middle school students and one for high school students, which will help, with some of the things that you all are talking about. And then Shannon has also been working on developing some healthy tech habits kind of workshop. Maybe I should let Shannon talk about it a little bit more, but essentially, trying to support young people in establishing healthy relationships with technology and screen use.
Am I too old for that class?
I don't know.
I'm kidding.
But then also working on a workshop for parents. We find often that the intentions are good, and sometimes just tweaking the way that we listen to our young people that live in our house or the way that we talk to them. So you guys probably remember how to listen, how to talk so your kids will listen, and how to listen so your kids will talk. So Shannon's been working on using that book and workbook to develop a workshop for parents. But certainly if you guys, our bandwidth only goes so far, but if you're hearing of particular needs in the community that we can offer additional groups and workshops around, I think we would be interested. The challenge we have in addition to our bandwidth is just scheduling. It's very hard for us to schedule things during the day this year. We're trying to work that out with the schools, but it's not quite the same as going in during one of your students' study halls to meet with them, or offering a group during lunch. So things are a little delayed this year in terms of the logistics there. But I don't know how we got to that topic. Maybe in response to the director's
virtual learning.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we feel okay with moving forward to the next agenda item?
Sure.
Mhm.
Okay. So we did get a directive from the town finance team, and that we need to start talking about the FY22 budget. Feels like we just finished.
You've got to be kidding me.
No, feels like we were just settling into the FY21 budget, and we need to start thinking about FY22. Unfortunately, as I said, I had done a whole spreadsheet to share with you all to outline different figures, and I don't have that with me. So one of the things that was said in the directive from Brian Ballantyne is that if he realizes that for those of us who report to a board, we may need the board to vote on what it is that we're doing. And so I will tell you what my thoughts were for this upcoming year. If you all feel comfortable voting on that, you can. If you would prefer to wait until I give you the actual figures, we can do that as well. But I do have to submit something to him before our next board meeting. So he knows that, if you all feel more comfortable with being able to vote on the figures, that he will know that those numbers I'm giving him have not met the board's approval as of yet. I hope that makes sense. So I'm a little disappointed because I did work on all of this and did lots of math, which is not my favorite thing, to try to come up with these numbers. But essentially, so, as what I had planned on doing was sort of giving you some backstory, reminding everybody of where we've been and what we've accomplished in our amount of time working on this 5-year plan. It's included bringing Megan's hours up to 40 hours a week, Shannon's hours up to 40 hours a week, the addition of an admin assistant. We also were able to increase our contracted services funds to include supervision for myself and clinical consultation for our team, and also some increased funds for training for Shannon's position. Originally, as outlined in the 5-year plan, we were hoping to move the department to a structure that looked like Megan was going to be focused on our clinical services. We would try to shift Shannon into the role of prevention specialist. Prevention is one of those pieces that's got an immense amount of bang for your buck And unfortunately, it's the last thing that we are able to do. And we don't have a lot of capacity to do that. And that we would have the addition of an outreach coordinator who would take on a lot of the need-based services that Shannon does currently. So Shannon plays this role right now where has one leg in prevention and one leg in need-based services. And so we really wanted to try to have one employee in the department who specializes in each of these areas versus having multiple people addressing these different programs and initiatives in different ways. Again, trying really to streamline things. So, so I would say, you know, that is potentially still on the horizon for the department. However, we have just started with our new admin assistant. She is on week 3 with us, and it's been hard to fully measure the impact. Once she's completely trained, completely up to speed, I think we will have a greater sense of the impact that the addition of this position has on our department. And I also think that the fiscal year that we're about to go into is likely to be quite tight, given the financial constraints that the town is likely to be under. So I wanted to recommend that we deviate from our 5-year plan a little bit to take the time we need to adjust to having a new full-time admin assistant, and see how that works for us. But Sarah, you mentioned earlier about referral services, and I appreciate that you highlighted how time-consuming that is, because it is, in fact, and because it's so time intensive, we end up spending a lot of our time helping a few people versus having more time available to help many more. So I would like to propose that for the upcoming budget, the FY22 budget, that we request funding for an annual contract with Interface Referral Services as part of our contracted services line item. That is the only thing that I was going to propose that we put in our FY22 budget request. The salaries would change slightly because that would account for the annual pay increases for eligible employees. But otherwise, you know, it'd be I don't know that they've decided, the personnel board has decided on what the pay increase will be for FY22. But if it's roughly 2% or 2.5, that gives you a sense of, you know, just how much that would adjust for the salaries. But otherwise, everything except for the contracted services line item would stay the same. And it would be an overall net increase of $13,000 to account for Interface Referral Services. So I don't remember, I know we've talked about Interface in the past, but just in case anybody's unsure, it is a contract that's just for towns. So a town will enter a contract with Interface Referral Services, and we are one of very few that does not have a contract with Interface yet. Northborough does, Westborough, Hopkinton, Holliston. What it does is it allows a resident of a community that's a subscribing community to call and get assistance to find basically what we're doing now, but they do much more successfully because this is all they do, and they have a team of people doing it. But they help to provide a short list of providers that take their insurance, that meet their search criteria, all of those variables that Megan outlined. And they do that within a 2-week time frame, which is also pretty remarkable. And they also will help to set up the first appointment and do follow-up afterwards. So they will also check in with that resident to find out if their match was a good match, if they're happy, and if they're not, they will actually help them to find a different provider. So they continue to work with a resident until they're matched with somebody that they're happy working with. You know, again, this is something that we try to provide to residents, but we're not very successful. Or that's not to say we are successful in the sense that we're able to hand over 1, 2, 3 names if we're lucky. But that's not without a lot of work ahead of time. And by the time we actually get that information back to the resident, sometimes the openings that were available with the provider are no longer available. So it's not a system that's working very well.
Sarah, have we ever used them? Has
We have
Southborough
not.
ever used them?
Nope.
I'm just
Nope.
wondering, it sounds like a really good thing to me. If you have 20 people in a year that need them versus 200 people in a year that need them, is it still 13,000?
Yes. They do adjust their prices according to the population in that community.
Right.
So Boston, for example, compared to Southborough would be a different pricing, but 13,000 is the base price point for them.
I think it sounds long overdue. I think it'd be good.
And do they coordinate with you guys too, or no? Is that
Yes.
okay?
So I can give you, you know, somewhat of a background. I have data from neighboring communities. The other youth and family service departments have been trying to help me find funding for this. So they give me their data, and which is very helpful. But so often, so again, as I said, a resident can call completely outside of our office and get the assistance of Interface. But let's say they were having a hard time navigating that. Our department would actually be the point of contact for Interface. And we would work together to identify providers in the area and touch base with one another pretty regularly. Residents can also come to us and we can call Interface together and we can do some additional follow-up with them. Certainly I know, you know, I don't have the firsthand experience, but I do know that other youth and family service departments who tend to be the point of contact for Interface have a very, they have a close working relationship with their case manager over at Interface.
Would it be possible to get it started sooner than FY22?
I'm so glad you asked. This relates to probably, let's see, the grant proposals on the agenda. We did apply for some funding with the Southborough Community Fund in the grant process. The hope was that in doing so, we could have some data. So Interface is very data driven, which is wonderful, especially for budget season. And so we applied for funding through the Southborough Community Fund for a 1-year contract with Interface. And I don't know what their decision is. I did have a follow-up conversation with Tom Karate, who's the chair of the Community Fund. And they asked a lot of really good questions. And so there's a chance that they could support that, in which case we might be able to start a 1-year contract with them as early as January. if we decided to support that.
Do I remember correctly that they require a 2-year commitment,
They
2-year
do.
contract? And
Yep.
you have to pay that up front or?
No,
Annual.
so it's an annual fee, but they do require you to do a 2-year contract, which means that, so this is where it gets a little hairy because you need to know where your year number 2 money is coming from. I feel as though we have some prospects, but at this point, I have tried getting funding for this a number of different ways. So,
Right.
so I'm keeping my fingers crossed that that the potential to put this into the town budget is something we could get support behind. Especially, you know, recognizing that asking for another employee or staff member is not fiscally responsible right now, and that this would really enable us to support our residents without it, you know, being as costly to the town.
When are you supposed to find out about the grant money from the community fund? Do you know? I can't remember when.
Yeah, it's typically early November, but I have a feeling since they're not going to be doing an award ceremony this year that it may be earlier. I don't know for sure. They did get a lot. They got a record number of requests this year. So,
What happened? I'm a little unclear. So what happens if they give us, you get the grant for the first year, the 13,000.
Yep.
Obviously, we will not know yet whether the budget request will be approved. How do we sign a 2-year contract, not knowing how we're going to pay for that?
Well, again, I am hopeful that we would have some other prospects. That's something that we could talk with friends about. It's something that we could talk with the 100 Women of Southborough about. That's actually what this interface was actually what Lauren had, as a member of the 100 Women of Southborough, had submitted a proposal for. Again, we can't bank on that because only 3 proposals are chosen per year.
Per quarter.
Per quarter, thank you. That's what I meant to say.
But only one of those are chosen. 3
Right.
are nominated and 1 is chosen.
Right. So, you know, I am taking a gamble with the Southborough Community Fund, but you know, the hope is that by having some data to provide to the town, we would have more of a leg to stand on with being able to shore up our funds for contract year number 2. If it, you know, I would need to, in talking with some of the other communities, this is how many of them have had to enter into their first year with Interface, is by having some of the funding coming from one place. The other place that I've gone to try to get funding consideration is the school department, as the schools will greatly benefit from having Interface available to them. So I don't have a great answer for your question, Leslie. It's certainly something I have thought a lot about, and at this point, I'm just trying to figure out any way to get this service available for the community. So some things have yet to be figured out.
So we should, if we don't approve this tonight, then we might have to have a special meeting, right? He wants this done before the next meeting?
Well, so I have to submit to him figures for our request, but all I need to do is indicate to him that the board has not voted on it. So, so if you all would feel more comfortable seeing the figures, then we can just plan on putting this on our agenda for our next board meeting. I can let Brian know that it has not met the board's approval as of yet. And then he will know that that means that there could potentially be a change. And I'm really regretful that I don't have those to show you tonight, and I'm sorry about that. I did have it all done.
Sarah, could I ask you a quick question? I know we had the 5-year plan, and and 2022 will be the 3rd year of the 5-year plan, right?
Yes.
Okay, now what were the expenditures that we anticipated during the 3rd year of the 5-year plan that we may not do?
So the next plan was to add an outreach coordinator to the department.
Okay, so basically, instead of moving forward with an outreach coordinator, do I have this right? We're asking to use to contract for interface.
Correct, right?
Yep, so we would be adding 13,000 to our contracted services line item in our operating budget. So nothing to do with our salaries. We wouldn't be touching that, adding no new hours.
Okay.
So this would just be as part of our operating budget, $13,000 increase on contracted services.
Okay, so I am okay with supporting that tonight.
I am too.
Likewise.
Okay.
So should we, do we need to take a vote?
Let's do it just for the heck of it. I move that we support for fiscal year 2022 hiring interface for the first year of a 2-year contract in the amount of $13,000 per year.
Can I just make a clarifying point? So it would be, if it's part of our budget, it would mean that it would roll over each year. So it wouldn't be necessarily, well, I don't know that this needs to be clarified, but it would be an annual fee that's paid for and would just keep rolling over to pay for subsequent year.
Okay, as part of our contracted services budget in perpetuity. How's that?
There we go.
I second that.
Landry, aye.
You want me to go around and ask people? Sue Butka.
Yeah, just say their last name. Say their last name.
Butka.
Aye.
Don
Aye.
Haddon.
Aye.
Aye.
And Byer.
Aye.
And Richie.
Aye.
All in favor of.
Oh, how do you vote, Sarah?
Oh, I'm sorry. Aye. Sarah Mikan.
Did you get Beth too? You got Beth, right?
Yeah, I got Beth. I think.
Okay.
All right. Oh, she was muted. Beth, you're muted.
No, I unmuted and I
Oh,
said,
okay. All right.
sorry, you didn't hear me.
Okay.
That's great. Thanks, ladies.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Sarah. It sounds like a good plan.
Yes.
Are we okay to move forward? Are there any other thoughts or questions regarding the FY22 budget? These are very preliminary discussions, so as we all know, things will likely change over time.
Can you still send us the figures and email
Yes.
so we can do it? Thank
Yes,
you.
I can do that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, then
Okay.
I think you can move on.
Okay. I don't have a lot of information to share with you, but the next item on the agenda is a mortgage and rental relief program. I just wanted to put it on your radar that, as you may be familiar, that the town has received money through the CARES Act. And the Board of Selectmen were recently discussing the funds that were available there. And Lisa Braccio reached out to me about the prospect of starting a mortgage and rental relief program. A couple of other communities have used the money that's available to towns through the CARES Act for such a program, which is great because there's some parameters and guidelines and documents already in place that we could mirror for our prospective program. I have a meeting along with Shannon with the Emergency Fund Committee tomorrow to talk about how that might look in Southborough, where Lisa's was wondering if it's possible for us to use our same channel of emergency fund requests for people to apply to this program. So there's some logistics to figure out there, and we want to make sure that the Emergency Fund Committee is brought in on that conversation. And Lisa is also having some conversations with town administration and the other selectmen and the town accountant about how this could work. So I don't have a lot of answers to questions that you might have. You're certainly welcome to ask them, but I will know more probably in a couple of weeks about some of those logistics. But the hope is, and I think this has been on several people's radar, but I know Shannon especially, about the onslaught of people being in really rough shape in the near future because the moratorium will be ending. Some of the other public assistance programs may not be available to them. And so there is concern about, I actually think it's quite timely for this program to be available. So hopefully we can make it happen. I do believe the funds are restricted up until the end of this calendar year. So that's why we're a little bit, things are a little time sensitive and trying to get them up and running, or at least putting a proposal together for the selectmen to review. So I just wanted to share that with you all. Does anybody have any questions? I can try to answer them.
Do you know generally how much money would be available to the town through this?
Well, I know that there's quite a bit available, but the money, some of it's going to COVID related expenses. But they were kind of appreciating that there's quite a bit of funding there. Hopefully I'm not misspeaking at all, but that could be utilized further, and that this would be a great way to utilize some of these funds. And the CARES Act actually outlines that these funds can be used for that. So Holliston, who we spoke to last week, they put a limit of 25,000, carved out 25,000 of those funds to be used for this program. I think the original amount, I wish I could remember. For some reason, I don't remember exactly, but it was quite a bit of money. So I know that a couple of other communities did 50,000. So it would certainly, we in the emergency fund are not able to really help people with mortgage payments and rent because they're typically reoccurring bills, and they're typically more than we have the capacity to spend money on per household. So at any rate, I'm hopeful that we can put something together. It's a great opportunity. I hope to have more information for you soon.
Sarah, are these loans to homeowners or renters, or are they outright grants?
They would be outright payments. They would not be, just like the emergency fund, it would only go to banks or lenders or to landlords.
Okay, and
So
it would not
not-
would not need to be repaid, in other words.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
So are there qualifying, you have to obviously, but I mean, there's paperwork involved, I would assume.
Yep.
And
Yep.
what's the outreach going to be like? How are we going to get it out to the public if these funds are available through the CARES Act?
Well, probably along the same lines as our typical avenues of advertising, which are through the superintendent's office, through my Southborough, through our channels of communication, through other town departments. Typically, we find that hard copy flyers and posting those places really doesn't have much of an impact. So for the most part, it would be going through the schools, churches, online, a variety of different channels.
My Southborough?
Yep.
So would it cover, do you happen to know, you might not know yet, but would it like cover like one payment, or would it be capped at a certain dollar amount, or would it be through the
Yeah,
industry?
so that's some of the parts that need to be worked out. So different communities have used different models. Some of them have paid 3 months. Some have paid just 1 month. Some will pay, if somebody is in arrears with some of their payments, then they'll pay back amounts that they already owe. So that's the part that we're trying to sort of figure out, that it depends on, what we're able to secure through the town and through the accounting process.
So would it be on a first come first basis, because 25,000 is, it's generous amount of money, but it's not a huge amount of money really.
Right.
For rent and mortgage. Yeah.
Well, I do know that some communities have done round 1 and then done a round 2 after that. So it does sort of need to be parsed out in chunks, so to speak, if it does move forward, because it's hard to anticipate what kind of response there will be. So I think it will have to be on a first come first serve basis, because you're right, the funding is limited. But again, there will be income qualifications, and it's a learning process. We'll see if we can potentially do another round, but I don't have the answer to that question quite yet. Any other questions or thoughts?
Sounds worthwhile.
Yeah, I hope it works out.
Me too.
Have you heard of a lot of need at this point in time? Are there people in the community that are in need of this kind of financial support?
I'm sure there are. I would say that I think one of the reasons this came up on Lisa's radar is because she has been made aware of people struggling. People do come to us through the emergency fund, but and mortgage and rental payments are often an issue. But as I said, we can't really address those through the emergency fund because they're not something we have the capacity to support, often because the bill is too much, or the emergency fund committee really wants to try to solve a problem and fix something that's not going to be reoccurring, whereas housing is a critical need, and so this is in hopes to address helping people a little bit with that. Anything else? Okay. If it's okay, I'm going to move on to the next item, which is setting consistent meeting dates. So that might feel a little bit confusing because we did a month or two ago try to establish consistent meeting dates, and we had settled on the second Tuesday of every month. The reason this is back on the agenda is because one thing that should have been on my radar, but wasn't, is that we are competing for virtual meeting space. So we were fortunate enough to reserve virtual meeting room number 1 for tonight's meeting. Did you all know that you're in virtual meeting room number 1 right now?
I did not.
So
I thought I was in my office.
You're wrong, Sarah, you're not. So we are competing for virtual meeting space on in the evenings. So I was able to book this month and next month's meetings for the second Tuesday of the month in the evening. But I guess the point is that we want to highlight the fact that that may not be able to be consistent, because especially as budget season approaches, a lot of people are jockeying for those time slots. So I don't know, Marguerite, I think this was something that was on your radar to put on the agenda. I don't know if it was with the intention of just highlighting that there may be changes in the future, or wanting to discuss again, open up that discussion again about possibly changing our meetings to a different time of day, or.
Okay, because I'm the clerk, man, I'm like the clerk person. I know, it's gone to my head. That's why I was texting you all at 10 o'clock last night. Can you come? I know.
No,
Anyway,
I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did. Thank you.
Really. So here's the thing. I think the Board of Selectmen, I think advisory, somebody else, all the heavy duty committees like Tuesday night for some reason. So when we were all going to a building, that wasn't a problem, but I think there's only 2 Zoom rooms available at a time, or maybe 3. Yeah. So Sarah, only because she's charming and talked to Tom sweetly, got these 2 slots. So I guess my question is, can anyone meet in the daytime?
Can I just add one detail, Marguerite? The other piece here, because somebody might be thinking, well, why don't we just book all of our meetings? We're not allowed to do that. We can only book 2 at a time, because people could easily monopolize the meeting rooms that way. And sometimes we'll book things and then cancel, but they're still virtually booked, not making the space available for someone else. So that's another thing to be brought up.
Okay, so we'd like to find ideally a space where we could have it the same day of every month and the same time, at least until June, right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
So
to revisit what was said, I know that there were a couple of folks who expressed concern about meeting any other time than at night. I don't know what people's level of flexibility is to be able to do. But, theoretically, there is no reason, I did inquire about this. Could we have an 8 a.m. meeting? Could we have a 4 p.m. meeting? Basically any time of day, as long as we are going through the town's Zoom account, so that people have access to watch our meetings, we are okay.
So as I understand it, Tuesday and Thursday are the worst days because most other boards like to do it then in the evenings. Friday is a pretty wide open day. And then during the day it's okay. But I wanted just for a sort of general thing. I mean, we could do a doodle poll, but again, is there anybody who doesn't want to do it during the day? I think, Sarah, you don't want to do it during the day, right?
Me?
Yeah,
Oh, or Sarah Micus.
either.
I am happy to do it during the day.
Okay, so you can do it during the day. Okay.
I can, yeah.
Anybody doesn't want to do it during the day?
I would have to do it later in the day because, I mean, I do Meals on Wheels and caregiver meals just
Yeah,
on Wednesdays and Thursdays.
yeah.
But I'm done with that at like 1. So
So if we did like a Tuesday, or if we met at 2:00 during the week on a weekday, could
I don't like, yeah, time right in the middle of the day is hard for me because I take a lot of people on medical appointments. So
okay.
and
either,
you're working too, right? So
yeah, I work this year on Thursdays and Fridays, so those are definitely
Okay.
out unless.
and
we-
Beth is working. Beth, you work too, right? So and Lauren.
So maybe, like 5:00 would be good for me. Or 4:30. Early morning's not bad either.
Okay.
I would have to wear my pajamas though.
I
That's
think we
okay.
all would. Should I do a doodle? I don't mean to take this over, but should I do a doodle poll and ask for just sort of, oh my God, it would be huge.
Yeah.
Well, this is what I already tried to do before, and it didn't work.
It didn't work. I know. Yeah.
My
I screwed it up
recommendation.
too.
Well, my recommendation would be, as much as it could be a pain, would be to connect with each person individually and say, what can you do and what can you not do?
All right.
And then try to piece that together.
Yeah, Megan and Shannon, what's your
Oh,
availability?
yeah, right.
Really
Shannon went
depends
to
for
bed.
me. Like completely depends on the day. Cause like some days I am available during the day, some days I have appointments during the day. So it
Right.
yeah, it would depend on what day we're talking about.
Okay.
But it's good to have you guys here, obviously. So
Oh, I want everybody
I
here.
have- Yeah, I have always told Megan and Shannon though that, we love having them, but that if they can't make it, it's not an expectation that they attend.
Well, maybe
although
it's not your expectation. No, I'm kidding. I'm only kidding.
I do think
Okay.
they like coming. I shouldn't speak for them, but
So Megan and Shannon, are there any times that you cannot make it during the week?
Can I make the suggestion that we try to have these individual conversations outside the meeting? Because I think that'll be it's not probably, at least for Megan, probably not a straightforward answer.
All right.
And Shannon's teaching from home, right? You have your kids at home.
Yeah,
My God.
yeah, and they're
Okay.
still involved in stuff and so.
Okay, so should I call everybody up individually with my calendar in front of me? And I will do that and ask them, which days are out and which days are in. And here's my trusty calendar. Okay.
Great.
And I think I have everybody's phone number except Lauren's.
Which I'm not gonna put on the,
I'll send it. I'll share it with
So
you.
email me your phone number. How's
I will.
that?
Very smart, Lauren.
Thank you.
Broadcast it right now.
No, we don't want to get trolled. Okay, so I will just talk, and the next week I'll talk to everybody on the phone and try to get when we can do it.
That sounds great, Marguerite. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
you'll
you
find
for
me a
doing that.
gibbering wreck at the end of 7 days. I'll be.
We
Can I
will
just
not.
raise one point before Marguerite calls everyone? Is there a reason why we can't do Wednesday evening? Because it does seem evenings tend to work for most.
Wednesday evening is good for me. I don't know how it is for everybody else, but
I just didn't know if that's bad for Sarah, for instance. Sarah Castle, I know you initially said you'd prefer to do during the day.
Yeah, I can be flexible. Evenings are, just more challenging because I've got children. I'm in my bedroom right now, and they're right across the hall. I gave them melatonin this evening to help with the transition to going to bed. But that's the only hang up for me, is that it's just a little bit harder to juggle being in a meeting and having my two very active young lads across the hall. So
I like the idea of Marguerite calling everybody, and we can do our availability and then figure it out. At least we know we're okay for next month, right?
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we do have, so Marguerite, we do have the virtual space booked for next month. But if you end up talking to everyone and we figure out a plan B, we can always let Tom know that as soon as possible.
All right, and we decided that Wednesday evenings are not good.
No, we didn't decide that.
Oh, okay, because Wednesday evening
a
sounds like a
possibility.
possibility. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Marguerite.
Well, don't thank me yet, Sue.
Okay, I'm going to move us on to the next item. I just wanted to let you all know, I already touched upon it briefly. Now I'm having trouble because now that I'm on my phone, I can't pull up the, let me see. Can you all still hear me if I go to a different screen here?
Yeah.
I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. All right. So, this is the wrong thing. Okay. So we submitted a letter of interest to the Southborough Community Fund for grants. And just wanted to update you all on what those were. So as I mentioned, we had asked for some funds toward a one-year contract with Interface Referral Services. We also asked for some funds for working with a strategic planner. I'll share that there was some question about whether the year 2020 is a good year to work with a strategic planner, which is a good point. At the same time, it's hard to predict our future right now. And, I've heard the phrase, which I hate, the new normal, in which case it could be the perfect time to work with a strategic planner. So at any rate, that's one of the projects that we had requested funding for. We also met with a consultant. She is a substance abuse prevention coalition consultant, and she is somebody that would help increase our capacity within our Northborough Southborough coalition. We've been challenged with trying to get certain people to the table, and also with trying to just grow and develop as a coalition. And so this woman, Amanda Decker, is somebody that we would love to work with. And so we asked for some funding to receive coaching and training and support from her for a year, and potentially move on to applying for a drug-free communities grant. That's like the big pie in the sky type of goal for that group. But for right now, we're just looking for some coaching and support from her. The holiday giving program, I believe this was just at the last meeting that we brought this up, that things are going to look different this year. Shannon, are you there?
I am. I'm here.
Do you want to give a quick update on the holiday giving program?
Sure. So I think you are referring to, Sarah, the changes this year is that to keep everybody safe and to make it easiest, we're going to be doing just gift cards. Donors are a little bit smaller this year. Some of the different places can't take quite the capacity of tags that they generally do. So we've been doing a lot of outreach into the community to try to get more donations. applications have been out for a week and a half or 2 weeks or something. And we have 14 back, and I anticipate anywhere from 30 to 40 this year. So every day is a balancing act of, not enough donors, not enough, you know what I mean? Yeah, so.
Not enough donors, too many donors, not enough donors, too many donors.
Right. Which is, that's par for the course with this program. That's what I do every year. It's a little bit more nerve-wracking this year where a few of the names that have come up, some of the applicants are new to us. So, if families that we've helped in the past want help again, and there's these new families, there may be lots of help that needs to be given.
Thank you for that update. So the reason why the holiday giving program was also outlined in our grant proposal or our letter of interest to the Southborough Community Fund was because we anticipate fewer donors and more families participating. So, and we have this added challenge where we don't typically have to identify a budget per se, because people in the past have purchased items and wrapped them. And so, we don't have a monetary amount that we tried to fundraise for to meet the needs of this program. So it's a very tricky year that way, trying to assess how much we're going to need. And so Shannon's been doing a really great job of trying to balance all of those variables. But we did ask for some funding just in the amount of $5,000 from the Southborough Community Fund to supplement the budget of the holiday giving program.
As far as the public goes, would you prefer a check for this, or would you prefer people donated gift cards?
Either one is fine.
Okay.
So the flyer that's gone out has some specific stores that we can be looking for gift cards, and that would help to meet the needs. And again, if people want to do checks, we just ask everyone to be cognizant of checks being made out to Friends of the Southborough Youth Commission with holiday giving in the memo, so that we can make sure to be able to use that quickly and for what it's meant for.
Okay.
And that things need to be in by November 30th.
Okay.
So the earlier the better, so that we can figure out, particularly for checks, so that, they can go into the bank and be purchased for what it is that families need. So.
And also so that we can, if we have to go in, we have this challenge every year with buying bulk amounts of gift cards.
Yes.
Bess, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about too. But that there's challenges. We may need to make a few trips to.
Yeah, it definitely looks like a scam if you're right.
Oh,
if you're,
trust me.
Yeah.
My picture is up on the Stop and Shop wall. They were like, let me go get the manager. Hang on just a second. This lady's from Youth and Family.
Yeah. And then the last item that's on here, which is, something that we put on per the recommendation of the Community Fund Board itself, is additional, just a smaller amount this year, but additional funds towards the emergency fund. So we were requesting $5,000 to go towards the emergency fund, but I think that they are going to try to encourage a contribution from the trust fund committee this year, to see if we can go that route for supplementing the emergency fund budget. So, because we still have a fairly healthy I think it's around, Shannon, is it like $15,000 still left in there? Something like
It's
that.
been a bit since I've looked at it, but I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah. So, oh, actually, it's on the,
Yeah,
it's on the director's report. Thank you. I was gonna say, I know I saw that number recently. I don't remember why.
Yeah,
That's why.
that was as of the 10th. So I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So just wanted to let you all know about that. And again, we won't know until, you know, late October, early November, what they plan to support. Bless you, Susan.
Thank you.
Bless you.
Thank
Is it
you.
cold in the Caribbean?
It's just the allergies, you know, the pollen in the air.
Yes, yes.
That's funny. Friends report. Leslie, do you have anything that you want to say?
Just, I was going to report the amount of money that was raised by Rotary. Is that okay if I?
That was a wonderful
share the
thing.
great news that so I think, Sarah, you brought that up last meeting, that Rotary was going to do a campaign for camperships in order to utilize some money that the district had set aside, but required that Rotary do some additional fundraising to be entitled to use that money. And Liz Caprielian, I don't know how to pronounce her name, but
Caprillion
did an amazing job. She ran a GoFundMe. It was 6 days long. They got some matching funds from Main Street Bank, and they raised a total of $3,300 for camper ships that will be coming into the Friends account. And in addition, this part was a little bit of news to me, but the money that district set aside has to be utilized in gift cards. Can't be cash. Is that correct?
Yeah, so unfortunately what they found out in the 11th hour is that the district funds that they had received cannot just be given over as funds to the recipient that they were fundraising for, that the district funds can only be used for some kind of a product. So a thing, a service, or an item. And because of COVID-19, the district has been flexible in allowing Rotary clubs to deviate from what their original grant proposal was. So the grant proposal was to raise funds for camper ships, which they still were able to do that through the GoFundMe campaign. And so the funds that they came in through the GoFundMe campaign will go to camp scholarships. But the district funds that they received, that they had hoped to tag on to the money they received through the GoFundMe, cannot be used as just a handover of funds. So so they had to go back to district to find out, you know, is there something else that they can use the money for? And so Liz got in touch with me and asked if there was anything else that we needed. And it just so happened that Shannon and I had met that morning to talk about how the heck are we going to make ends meet with our holiday giving program this year. And so I said, Liz, how about some gift cards to go towards the holiday giving program? Do you think that the district would go for that? And the good news was that they said yes to that.
Oh,
So,
great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So
So
when you're
it was
saying-
not something they expected to have happen. But in the end, it has a happy ending.
Yeah, so she said there was another 2,200 available for that. Now she said holiday meal, but I presume she meant holiday giving that can be used for the entire giving program.
Yeah, they wanted it to be targeted for a specific item to help all families. And so versus having a lot of variability. And so they wanted to go with grocery gift cards. I did talk to them about, that a couple of years ago, we had tried to start sending gift cards to participating families right after Thanksgiving as a way of helping their families prepare a holiday meal or to make holiday cookies for neighbors. I mean, of course, this year is very different, but grocery cards, whether it's, for holidays or not, is going to be very helpful to participating families for sure. And so their approval was for grocery cards only.
So
Okay,
when you're saying
that's fine, right? I mean, that's fine.
when you're saying district, you mean the Rotary district?
Yes.
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 I didn't know what district you were.
Yeah, apparently there's local Rotary clubs for each community, and then there's a district level Rotary club. I don't even know if it's called a Rotary club at the district level, but they have funds that they will award local Rotary clubs, and so they had awarded funds to support the project that the Southborough Rotary Club was working on, which was the Cash for Camperships. But in the end, literally, like the whole campaign had ended and they were getting ready to cut a check and found out that they couldn't actually do that. So, so they had to pivot. And again, I think it's actually a need that they will be helping to address right now versus camperships. Certainly we hope there's a return to normal sooner than later, but we don't know how soon we'll be able to use some of those funds. So hopefully it's next summer, but it remains to be seen.
And in terms of friends, I was wondering, Lauren, if you could just update where we stand with the Facebook page and the donate. You were going to apply for the donate now, or how to go about making donations through the Facebook page.
Right, there's not a lot yet until we have our next friends meeting.
Okay.
Nothing has changed with the Facebook page except that I made a couple of people and extra admins on that, and they can do the steps necessary to set up a Facebook donation page or button.
Great. And we have a meeting next week, so.
Yes.
Great. Anything else relating to friends right now?
I believe that is it for now.
Okay.
We have our meeting set up for it's now next Tuesday.
Okay. At 7, right?
7 p.m. Yes.
Okay. All right, great. The Laurie Sugarman Whittier Wellness Award is still on the agenda. It's been maybe the 3rd month in a row now. I know that I was supposed to send people, I believe, information about the application. I think the last time we spoke, we were talking about as a group making some versus soliciting the larger community for nomination. And forgive me, I think what I had said I was going to do was to get to update the application from last year and send a link to people. And I have not yet had a chance to do that. Maybe I could ask Christina to help with that, which would be great. And try to get that to everybody in time for a future meeting. There is no, typically that recipient is chosen in May. Obviously, we're well beyond May right now. And so maybe the goal is to just have this done before the calendar year. I realize, we only meet once a month, and so time will tick quickly. But what was the thought I was just having? Oh, I was thinking about this earlier, and I hate to admit this, but we haven't ever used an executive session to discuss things as a board. And I don't know if this is the sort of thing that an executive session could be used for, or if we just do it in an open meeting to discuss nominations for this award. But that was just a thought that I had earlier today. So I don't really have, unless somebody has questions or thoughts on this, I don't have much of an update for you, and I apologize for that.
We can all think about it. We can all think about who we nominate, maybe.
Thank you, Sue.
That should be our job before the next meeting, maybe.
Yes.
If we're discussing candidates, it should be executive, right?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think you'd want to do that on a open meeting like this.
It's yes, but it's for an award. So I didn't know, if there's rules about when you can and cannot use executive session meetings, but so maybe that's something that we can look into in the meantime also, and try to determine how and when we will discuss the nominees for this award. Sound good?
We couldn't do just a regular non-town Zoom for this, right? Because it's technically town business.
Right. And yeah, we couldn't, as long as we have a quorum of board members congregating and discussing. Okay. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, it'd be sort of sensitive to do it publicly.
Right. I agree. Okay, well, so let's roll it over to the next month's board meeting. And I will, as soon as we adjourn, I'm going to send an email to Christina to ask her to help me remember to do this and to walk her through what needs to be done and see if we can get this over to you guys in time for our next meeting.
Great. Thank you.
Sounds good.
All right. Any other business which shall properly come before the board? Is there anything else that we need to talk about or roll over for another agenda for next month?
I don't think so. That was a lot.
It was.
6 pages of notes.
Wow. To be exact.
Your hand must be hurting, Sarah.
Oh, I've been doing a little doodling too, I have to say.
Oh, I see. So 6 pages of doodles. All right. Should we call this a night then?
I make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Second.
Okay. Wonderful.
We are adjourned.
All right. 8:42.
All right, great to see you all.
Yeah.
Great to see you.
Good to see you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody. Bye.
Everyone.
Take care. See you next month. Bye.